What's up, guys? I hope that you're having an awesome day today. Welcome back to my channel. For those of you that are new, I'm going to be sharing my health story today, and for those of you who are previous subscribers to my other channel, I'm going to be sharing some more details that maybe you haven't heard from my past health story. If you don't know my health story, you might just look at me as I am and think maybe that I've always been healthy, but the truth is that I've had a lot of health issues throughout my life, even when I was a little kid. And I think that's what makes me so passionate about wanting to share about health on this channel and help people to improve their health, because I've just experienced so many different ways that you can be unhealthy and have health problems. It helps me to be compassionate, I think, for other people and what they're going through, because there's a lot of people that haven't really experienced having very poor health. And they do offer health coaching, and I think that they're amazing, that they want to help people, but there's another level that you can bring to the table with helping people with their health when you have actually experienced these things for yourself. So that's why I want to share my story with you guys, so maybe you can relate to different parts of my story and feel inspired to take charge of your own health. So let's start when I was a little kid. I was lactose intolerant from the time that I was very young. I loved cheese a lot. I really, really loved cheese, but cheese also made me feel nauseous and gave me diarrhea, as well as other dairy products. So I remember being a little kid and we were on vacation at our lake house in Canada, and we used to go with some other family friends, and we would go for a week or two every year. And in Canada, they have some really amazing ice cream, and it's made with just like real whole milk, and I was just so excited to get this ice cream every year, and I knew that I was going to have diarrhea, and I didn't care because I loved it so much. So basically, we would go to this place and we would take a boat ride, and I knew that from the time that I ate the ice cream, I had probably about 20 minutes to get to the bathroom, and I would just barely make it when I was a kid, but I was like, I don't care, I want to eat this ice cream. Now, when you're a kid, you don't understand. You're very short-sighted with your health. You're like, okay, I eat this, it makes me feel like this, and then it's over, and that's it. But you don't realize how much it's compounding, and that is building to create your young adult health and your adult health. And I also just ate a lot of junk food in general and didn't really feel so great. I got sick a lot, and my mom was a nurse. She is a nurse, and so we were able to get antibiotics whenever we needed them, and probably whenever we didn't need them too. I also love to eat a lot of bread. I didn't really like fruit, I didn't really like vegetables, and I was that kid that my mom had to kind of encourage me to eat my vegetables with like a treat or something. As I became a young adult, I had a lot of continuing random health issues. I always struggled with my weight, I always struggled with my energy and my mood, and I just never felt healthy. Like if you asked me, like, do you feel good? I would be like, like I feel okay. And I just really didn't understand very much about how my body worked. I knew I needed to eat food when I was hungry, but I didn't know that the type of food that I was putting in my body was really important. When I became an older teenager, around 17, 18, I started to have a lot of anxiety. And this could be due to stress at home, stress at school, and different things, but I ended up taking medication. And I was on this medication for, I want to say, close to a year. And while I was on that medication, I ended up blowing up. My weight went up a lot. And I felt really apathetic. I didn't really care that I had gained all of this weight. I was kind of like, well, yeah, I wish I wasn't so fat, but, you know, I'm fine. I have a boyfriend, I have friends, I get to eat all this food, whatever. And it was kind of a weird place to be in, to not really have any anxiety about anything, because I was the type of person that would have panic attacks in school and was so hyper focused on the way that I looked, and I would fixate on my hair and my skin. And if I felt like I didn't look good, I didn't want to leave the house, or I would make up stories in my head about like people talking about me and stuff, and none of that was even true. So I was having all this anxiety, and then to go to a place where I just didn't care what people thought about me, and I was totally fine to just be overweight and unhealthy. And yeah, it was a really strange feeling, or strange not feeling. Eventually I got to the point where I was like, you know what, I don't really look like myself, and I don't feel like I want to look like this forever, and I think I need to get off this medication because I don't want to be taking this medication forever. So I weaned myself off of it, which was also a really uncomfortable experience because I don't know if any of you have taken medication for anxiety or depression. Coming off of it, you can have all different sensations. It felt like there were like bugs crawling on my skin. I felt like I just wanted to like tear my clothes off and my skin. Like it just felt uncomfortable to be inside my body. And some of you, if you have really bad PMS, this is like what terrible PMS feels like, except it lasted for 2 weeks straight. And I just felt kind of crazy and moody, but eventually it subsided, and I was really glad to get off the medication. And if you are thinking about doing that, make sure you talk to your doctor about it, even though I did not do that at the time. I got off the medication and I started to automatically lose weight, and I had gotten up to about 170 pounds before I had started to lose weight. And so once I was off the medication, and I realized like, oh my gosh, like I need to start working out. Like I actually started to care about the way that I looked again. So before I had gained the weight, I want to say I was probably about 135 pounds. I ended up going to about 170. Once I got off the medication, within about a 6-month period, I was able to get down to about 125 pounds. And I did this through traditional diet and exercise. And I know that some people have seen before and after photos of me where I look like I'm really overweight, and then there's photos of me where I look really thin. This is kind of misleading, I guess, because some people think that I lost all of this weight by eating raw food, which is not true. I lost the majority of the weight, becoming more aware of what I was eating, and this is not something that I had ever done in my life before. I was eating more salads, I was eating more like microwave diet foods, and I was also now becoming aware of carbs, fat, and protein. And I was going to the gym a few times a week. I got to this point where I was really happy with my weight. And I actually felt really energetic too. I felt like, wow, I have more energy, I'm working out, this is really great. But I also had a lot of other stress going on in my life. And some of it was relationship stress. At the time, I had a boyfriend who was like very clingy. He's a really awesome person, but he's a little bit clingy. And I was feeling really smothered and stressed out in that relationship. I also was in college at the time and was having finals coming up. So I was feeling very stressed out, just thinking about all the tests I had. And then I was still going out, partying with my friends and working a couple days a week. All of this was kind of adding up to me not getting as much sleep as I should have and not really keeping my stress under control. And when you're young, you feel like you just have unlimited potential. I can just sleep 3 hours a night. I can do this, I can do that. I can do so many things. But the truth is that you are really borrowing from future energy when you don't take care of your body in that way. And so I had a sort of initial crisis that happened around this time. I think I was probably about 20 or 21 years old. I started to have this really horrible stomach pain, and I didn't know what was going on. And then eventually, one day I went to the bathroom and my stool was black, and I was like, what is this? So I went to my mom, who's a nurse, and I was like, hey mom, my poop was black. What's up with that? And she's like, oh, Maggie, like you need to go to the hospital. You need to go to the doctor like right away. And I was like, what? What's going on? She's like, do you have like stomach pain? I'm like, yeah, I have like this really bad stomach pain, but I've just been like taking antacids and stuff and like drinking milk because it makes it feel better. But she's like, no, you need to go to the doctor right away. So I go to the doctor. They take a sample of my stool and they tell me that there's blood in my stool. So they think that I have bleeding at somewhere in my intestines or in my stomach because I, had this pain in my stomach. So they were thinking it's probably a bleeding stomach ulcer. And they set up an appointment for me to go and have an endoscopy to get my stomach looked at. So I never went to that appointment, and I just continued taking my antacids, and I was like, well, what are they going to tell me to do anyway? I started taking more antacids. I looked online for foods that can irritate or cause issues like that. And I also saw that it was caused by stress. So I was like, I don't really want to go through that whole process. I'll just figure it out on my own and it'll heal itself. I thought that happened because the pain did go away and I no longer had blood in my stool. And this is like a couple months later that I'm thinking I'm totally fine. And then I ended up having an allergic reaction to some makeup and my whole face swelled up. I was super embarrassed because I had to go into work and go to school with my face just like completely puffed up. And it looked like I had gotten punched in the face in both eyes. It was crazy. My mother was like, yeah, we gotta take you to the doctor and see if we can get you some steroids to bring down the inflammation. And so we went to the doctor, we got some steroids. I started taking the steroids, and I remember very distinctly just like waking up one day and being like, I can't think clearly. And being kind of scared and thinking, okay, like maybe I just got way too drunk the night before or something. And that was another thing. After the stomach ulcer healed itself, I just continued drinking and going about my normal business. But yeah, so I'm thinking, okay, I don't feel right. I can't think clearly, and it feels like I'm stoned or just really hungover or something like that. And the feeling just didn't go away. I was sitting in my classes and I couldn't pay attention. I couldn't absorb anything that they were saying to me. I felt like I was in a dream. And it was really scary. If any of you guys have ever experienced a shift in mental clarity, whether it's because of health or because of drugs or anything like that, and you're not prepared for it, it can be really scary. So this is going on a couple weeks of me going to classes and then me coming home and telling my parents, I'm like, I don't know what's going on, but I just can't think clearly. So they take me to the doctor. I get a whole bunch of tests done and everything comes back normal. So they say, you just need more sleep and try drinking coffee in the morning. So I'm drinking coffee in the morning, I'm taking the 5-hour energy shots, I'm taking tons of B12, I'm doing all this stuff, and nothing is helping, and it seems to be getting worse and worse. I started off around this point at about 125 pounds. And over the course of 1 month, from the point that I had this issue with the steroids, I began to lose weight very rapidly. And I got down to about 107 pounds in 1 month. And I remember my family saying, what's wrong with you? Are you not eating enough? Like, you look sick and all this stuff. And I was like, I'm eating as much as I can. I was eating the most fatty foods. I was eating peanut butter all the time. I was eating burgers, bacon, like all this stuff to try to keep weight on. And I just kept losing more and more weight. And I also had terrible migraines from eating. Every time I would eat, I would feel horrible. My head would hurt so bad and I would have to go and lay down. And I'm also still experiencing this like dream-like fog. People call it brain fog. And I was really confused of what was going on. I also had the same issue of the allergy that I had to the makeup, and my allergies kept getting worse and worse. I started to become more and more allergic to like everything. I was reacting to products that I had been using my whole life. So I didn't know what was going on at this point. And I was really scared. I remember just going to so many different doctor's appointments and going to the hospital over and over again and just like saying like, somebody like, please help me. Please tell me what's wrong. I don't care what it is. Just tell me what it is. Like I wanted to get some sort of news, like you have a brain tumor or you have this, because something would be better than nothing. So this went on for about a year before I was able to have any improvement. And during that time, it got worse and worse and worse to the point where I was bedridden and I could only stand up for very short periods of time. If I was standing up, I would have horrible headaches, and I had really, really low blood pressure. And for whatever reason, we couldn't keep my blood pressure up. I would eat so much salt, and it still wouldn't keep it high enough for me to be standing. So I always needed to be laying down to feel better. And I couldn't remember like anything. I would watch movies and forget what happened. People would tell me stuff and I would completely forget it. So I'm thinking I've got Alzheimer's or some kind of crazy dementia going on. And I was really genuinely scared. So eventually I found a holistic doctor who was able to give me some sort of insight. This is about a year after all this happened. Some sort of insight into what was going on with my health. And I clung to this guy and his information because I was like, this is the only thing that has shown me even the smallest shred of hope. And he had me taking, I would say, 10 different supplements. I was like mixing all these different things into a little smoothie every day. He put me on a rotation diet so that I wouldn't have allergic reactions to different foods. And this was a whole new world for me. He told me that I needed to eat all organic, that I was chemically sensitive, that I had extreme adrenal fatigue, and that's what was causing a lot of my brain fog. That's what was causing my low energy. I have to say that there were times during this year when I was really sick where it was so bad and I felt so out of it and so terrible that I didn't know if I would get better, that I considered that it might be better to just die, because if I kept getting worse, I felt like I'm gonna die anyway. I didn't want to go on existing like that. So this was the first bit of hope that I had, and I was just so excited. And my parents got on board with it. They had to stop using perfume. They couldn't use regular soap. And we had to change everything in our houses to make sure that there were no chemicals around. And I have to say, I became a bit of a hypochondriac at this time. I didn't know what was triggering me and what was not triggering me. If my mom like happened to spray some hairspray in her bathroom and then I went in there, and I would be like, oh, I'm gonna get a headache, and I would just freak out, and I just felt afraid of everything. I didn't want to go to cities, and there was actually a time when I was traveling and I didn't even want to be barefoot in a hotel room. I would wear flip-flops, and I would wear my flip-flops in the shower because there was like bleach on the shower. It got to the point where it was like a little bit crazy. And then I realized like, okay, I need to relax a little bit, because some of the stress of worrying about all this stuff might actually be preventing me from getting better. So I think I need to loosen up. So right around that time, I found the most awesome person ever, who is named Arnold, and he has a raw food cafe in Lansdale, Pennsylvania. It's called Arnold's Way. If you're anywhere in that area, make sure that you go visit Arnold and tell him that you saw this video and tell him that he's awesome. My dad just happened to stumble upon this store, and he had a conversation with Arnold and told me that I needed to go in there and talk to this guy. And at this point, I'm like, yeah, I'm trying everything. Any weird, like woo-woo stuff, like give it to me. I'll try it. So I go in there, I talk to Arnold, he's like, raw food, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, okay, protein, this, that, the other thing. And he's just like, no, don't worry about any of that. I'm like, okay, well, what do I have to lose? I started eating a raw food diet, and I was a little bit afraid of fruit at the time when I started, because my other holistic doctor had gotten me on this rotation diet. I wasn't supposed to eat too much fruit, certain types of fruit. I had to rotate the fruits. Arnold was like, no, just throw it all out the window. I need you to do this specific thing. And I was like, okay, this is really hard. So I didn't want to give in all the way, but I did switch to a mainly raw foods diet, and I was eating a lot of vegetables and a lot of dehydrated raw foods, a lot of raw fats. And so I was eating what you'd call like a gourmet raw diet. I started to meet people at potlucks that were at Arnold's, and they were all eating fruit-based diets. All these like young, healthy athlete people. And I was like, okay, maybe I'll try it. So I had this date of like, okay, it was like 6 months into eating raw food. I was like, all right, I'm gonna try this fruit thing. I'm gonna give it a chance. And I went on like a kind of almost pure fruit diet, and I was still eating some vegetables and some greens. I have to say that was the time that I saw the most dramatic change in my health. It just like rocket shipped me to the next level of healing. I owe so much of my healing, my true healing, and my health that I have now to a fruit-based diet. But I feel differently about it now than I did, I think, when I first started eating a fruit-based diet. When I first started, it was almost cult-like, I would say, where we all just like were of this very rigid mindset. And I've changed my feelings around it and become a lot more loose and have like a healthier mindset, a more holistic mindset about food at this point. And my diet is still very similar to what it was before. I eat almost completely the same, but there's certain foods that I used to look at as not good, or certain fats or things like that, or just fat in general, or cooking foods in a certain way. Now I'm at a place where I'm like, wow, this is like a whole food. It's healthy for me. And I think the way that you think and feel about your foods is so important, because if you're eating stuff that is actually really healthy for you, but you're having bad feelings about it, it's not going to digest well, it's not going to assimilate well, you're going to be creating an acidic state in your body. The way that I look at food now is very different. I look at a fruit-based diet and eating a fruitarian diet almost in the same way that I would look at a juice cleanse. It can be incredibly healing, it can be incredibly nutritious for you, but it doesn't mean that you should be doing that for your entire life. I wouldn't look at a juice cleanse and be like, oh, I feel so good when I'm on a juice cleanse, and so that means that I should just be juicing for the rest of my life. We've been cooking foods for so many years, and it just makes sense to incorporate different foods to get different nutrients and have a more whole, complete diet where you're like actually getting enough protein and enough different types of amino acids, and you're actually getting vitamin E and choline and different stuff like that, which you really struggle to get on a pure raw foods diet. Where I'm at now with my health and my diet is I feel really happy. I feel like I really enjoy my food now, and I eat in a way that I know makes me feel good. And I have a different relationship with food than I've ever had before. You know, if you ever eat something that is not necessarily what you would think is optimal, you don't need to feel guilty about it, because your body is already going to have whatever issues it's going to have regardless of how you feel about it. So just relax and realize that you can do better with your next meal, and then just continue to do better after that. When I look back at my health history, I don't ever feel like I wish this didn't happen to me because I wouldn't have to deal with this now. I look at all of that as this amazing thing that happened that I was able to learn from, that shifted my life in a totally new direction, because I would have ended up being in a hospital doing MRIs on people. And, you know, I thought that that was how I could help people, and that's what I was going to school for. But this shifted my life in a totally different direction, so that I was actually able to help people on another level and understand so much more about the body than I ever could have before. So it's enabled me to start my YouTube channel. I have been able to share healthy recipes with you guys, and also do retreats where people can come out and have a complete immersion experience. And one of the best ways that I can help people too to change their health is through coaching. So I'll put links below if you guys want to check out any of that stuff. And if you want to check out healthy recipes, I've got tons on my channel, and I also have recipe books as well. And if you would like to come out to Hawaii and have a healthy immersion experience, then you can do that as well. Or if you would like to work with me one-on-one, then I would love to work with you. So if you guys have any questions about anything that I talked about in my health history, I'm totally happy to answer them down below. You can leave them in the comments. And yeah, it might be good if you share this video with anybody that you know that is struggling with health issues, and maybe they're dealing with chronic fatigue and things like that, and they feel a little bit lost or hopeless. And just having the positive mindset, positive spirit, and the right tools, you can really dramatically change your health. So thank you guys so much for watching this video, and I will see you in the next video. Bye.